just a little update on the call that we had yesterday with respect to our government relations discussion with Chris Gray, and where we stand with dealing with the potential for getting some rent abatement from landlords and the work that we've done with the banks. And just a quick update. We do believe that banks, and we've been told by the banks that they are eligible for interest and principal deferrals on their mortgages. We have asked Chris if he could help us from a government relations perspective, put some pressure on the government, the federal government to begin with, but after discussing it, we also thought there may be one of the better ways of addressing it may be to have it come from the provincial government of Ontario. Doug Ford is probably a guy that can call out landlords better than perhaps other politicians and say, we're all in this together, and hopefully that will maybe get landlords who have been a little more emboldened to start putting default notices and on tenants' doors. It'll make them think twice about doing that, and really, take some of the options that are available to them to help out the tenants. So Chris was going to talk to his people in government and try to get a bit of a sense. We put together a little overview of the issues and provided it to him, and expecting to hear some things back next week. From a time perspective, we didn't think it was a good idea to do it right now. We thought it was better to wait a little while, certainly wait at least until next week. And I think I think that landlords are going to start feeling more pressure later in the week. I heard a number today that about a third of Canadians didn't even pay their rent this month. And I don't know if that's been finalized. We don't seem to have good numbers on how many non-essential retail clients didn't pay. We do know that retail today in Canada makes up 2 million jobs and about 12% of the economy. I also asked Chris, and it's maybe through Tricia and Scott, I'm not sure, if we can also reach out to some other groups like the Canadian Retailers Federation and perhaps the Restaurant Association and other associations that are similar to ours, to see if we can kind of band together, because I think it would be better for us to work as a group. Anyways, we're waiting to hear back next week.
Great.
Hi, it's Chris here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Oh, good. No, and Dave, I just wanted to say thanks for the call yesterday. Really appreciated it, and you brought some good ideas to the fore. And I did speak with my colleague Peter Seaman, who you guys know presented last week, I guess it was, in my absence. And we are going to reach out, Dave, as you said. And there was a new economic council that was just announced. I just sent that to Trish and Scott. So that can also be the focus of our reaching out, at least in the province of Ontario, early next week. And just looking forward to helping you on that early next week.
Great, thank you. If anybody has any questions for either Dave or Chris at this point, we can answer any questions right now. No? All right, we will collect questions at the end then. Next, I'll ask Graham to speak a little bit. So we sent out a survey earlier this week about what different clubs are doing for negotiations with landlords. And from that survey, Graham looked through the results, and if you wanted to summarize a little bit, Graham.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Tricia. So actually, yeah, we've just sort of collected some of the responses. I think we had about 22 responses from across Canada. And actually, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to do a summary of those responses in the next FitBiz weekly email that I'm putting out. It'll be later today. So I think that's probably the easiest way is just I'll just kind of condense everybody's responses into the email, and then everyone can kind of review. We'll be throwing in some other content as well related to the landscape, or sorry, to the land use. I've got some good links from the Canadian Independent Business Association, I think it is. They've put together some great resources as well. So I'll be sending all of that out later today. And if anybody has any feedback on that or any content suggestions that you'd like to see, please do get in touch with me.
Thank you, Graham. And we will then move on to Scott.
Okay, perfect. So just wanted to touch base on some of the learnings in terms of recalling people back from layoff and, how to get people back to work. I'm sure everybody's been, looking and listening to learn about the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy, the 75%. So that application apparently opens in 6 weeks. Our understanding is it hasn't officially passed through Parliament yet. So it's still very speculative, but it does look promising. But again, those applications aren't opening yet. But if you are in the process of recalling staff where you've generated a revenue stream, likely through digital, either online training or online classes, setting up subscriptions, etc. What we have been advised is that really important that you focus on, with trainers, specifically trainers and instructors, that it is the same job. So it's not a different role, it is the same role. However, the delivery is a little bit different, obviously, but you see teachers are still teaching classes, they're still a teacher. Doctors are doing appointments virtually, they're still doctors. Trainers are training virtually, they're still trainers. And you can still charge for those sessions. Obviously, the delivery is a little bit different. But by saying that it's the same job, and obviously it's dependent if they're a commission role, how many clients do they have coming in paying, might fluctuate, but that's out of your control. You can't control that. Nobody here started COVID. But the role is the same, and that will help prevent any constructive dismissal claims. So we just want to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for a challenge later on saying that I was offered a job, but it was way different, and therefore I was constructively dismissed. That argument would likely get tossed out, especially if they are able to get paid a similar wage to teach a class or a similar wage to train a client. So highly recommend that you offer them their job back in the same role that they're in. If it's a role like a receptionist where that job might be very different, where now they might be doing outbound calls instead of taking inbound calls or dealing with inquiries, you could set up a temporary agreement with different hours and different expectations that they can voluntarily opt into. And they would then that's their choice to come back. But with personal trainers and instructors specifically, our advice given to us was make sure that when you do recall them, it is the same job that they had. And I'll get all this legalese printed out and sent to the group next week. So that's my update.
I have one question to that, Scott. It's Angela in Vancouver. Scott, but that is only if you have laid people off. I have not laid anybody yet off because I'm hoping that this 75% thing does get passed. So my trainers are all, and my front desk is all employed. So they are. I mean, I told them to use this time to get their adult credits done, and thanks to Nick, we have Trainer Plus now, so they have sent some programs out. But they are not. They are still legally employed with me, so that has got no bearing for me, has it?
Yeah, and that's great that if you're still able to keep them employed, I think the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy, you're probably 6 to 8 weeks out from getting the money.
Yeah, I know.
But if you're able to keep them going in the interim, that's great.
And those who are just one tip, and that came to me when we had Vancouver is not used to snowstorms, so like the rest of the country, that came to me then. If you have a receptionist who is doing outbound calls, offer them to get a cheap cell phone with a non-personal number to use those, so that they don't have to use their own phones in terms of calling clients back.
Oh, that's a great idea.
When we had the snowstorm, one of our receptionists did did use their own phone, and then got, of course, promptly a lot of calls afterwards from clients who thought that she was available Saturday evenings as well.
Right. Good advice. One thing to state with the recalls, just our experiences, we have some folks that have been very excited to be recalled and are raring to go. But if you have somebody who's declining the offer, because it's, in essence, if they're a personal trainer or an instructor, if they are declining the offer, you could actually say that they are choosing to resign, which means they no longer, you no longer have the severance liability. So again, we'll get this in writing for you. And I do encourage you to speak to your own legal counsel if you are concerned about that. But if they are recalled and they actually do refuse, they actually are technically resigning. Therefore, they don't require any pay in lieu of notice or severance. The other thing to mention with that is I would also advise to check your non-solicit, non-compete agreements. We have found in the industry that some trainers have decided to take this opportunity to build up their own business using the members that they've worked with in your facilities. So I would also make sure that you're looking into those aspects.
One more thing, Scott, and also liability insurance and WCB has to be taken into account. If you all of a sudden have a trainer filming herself or himself out of their living room and they slip, I do not believe that is going to be covered under WCB, and I'm not sure how it is with liability. I'm fairly certain that workers' comp is not, unless they have their living room designated as a work area, or outside, I'm not sure you are covered. So somebody will need to look into that more extensively. That's why I was so glad that we took on Trainer Plus, because of course that is a whole different issue then.
Yeah, great point.
And I just got something from my legal counsel here, something about employers eligible for the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. Certain employers paid contribution for employment insurance, the Canada Pension Plan, Quebec Pension Plan, and Quebec Parental Insurance Plan may be refunded by 100%.
So I just want to note that Parliament is convening tomorrow to pass the wage subsidy bill. So right now it is province by province. So tomorrow we'll find out more what is going to be offered nationwide.
Okay.
Just as a separate question, well, not a question, me and Scott were discussing on I'm assuming, sorry? Hello?
No, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Yeah, this is Bilal from Motion Fitness in Saskatchewan and Alberta. We're not in any competing markets here. Anyone who's on the phone, so that's good, I guess. But Scott, I was just asking if you could elaborate a little bit on how you are generating some revenue from your members and how that's been going and what you've been able to retain and lose, and how you intend to pay that money back, or is it even going to be paid back?
Well, if a member is, so we've given our members options. Okay. You know, right or wrong, I know some facilities just froze everybody. Other members kept billing going. And so what we did is we gave options. They could continue billing and get a credit for when we're open. They could convert their membership. We've basically created an online platform where they can convert their membership to one of our online platforms, or they can freeze. So we've given folks those options. We created a web form where they can tell us what they want to do. And then our member service associates in our office and our managers are working really hard to accommodate those requests. So that's how we were able to get a lot of online business.
How will the credit work?
Just when we're open, we freeze their account. So they pay us while they're closed. And when we're open, we freeze them. So pay us now and get the credit when we're open.
And you said about 50% of the people were okay with that?
The response has been a lot of people are okay to pay, and a lot of people are excited to, so I won't say percentages off the top of my head, but I'll just say that it's been very impressive, the amount of people that want to continue to support our business, as well as support their fitness professional, whether it's a personal trainer or a group fitness instructor. The amount of people paying for the online programming is inspiring, actually. And frankly, I know we are on the Global Federation call, and we were talking about, WHO promoting fitness. We all know exercise is good for everybody and important. I personally believe it's now more important than it ever has been from the mental and emotional health standpoint, let alone physical. And I think it's only going to get worse. So we've been closed now for 3 weeks. I think next week people are going to go, oh my God, this is real. It's been a month. And we're going to see rates of depression and anxiety go through the roof. And we know that exercise is a proven remedy to both of those mental health issues. So I think it's going to be more important than ever that people actually are exercising, and our professionals are ready to help.
All right. Yeah, just a note, Nick here from Trainer Plus. We're seeing the same thing from some of our people who are offering programming as a service that once they put the message out there, it started, people have been okay to convert their membership dues to online training programs. There's been really good response to that. So just doubling down on what Scott said there, definitely hearing some gyms who put the message out there. People are happy to have something, and if it's a trainer who's giving them a program and overseeing it, that's definitely something that they're happy to see. So seeing that response so far as well.
Checking in with your clients helps too.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a big thing about it. A lot of people are the program's one thing. They're really happy to do the sort of 30-minute call with the trainer each week and just see how they're doing. And the biggest thing we're seeing the best response from is that check-in call saying, how are you doing? What do you need? That's the key question. Some people it is a program. Some people it's just that check-in that's needed more than anything else. And having that FaceTime with their fitness professional, with someone they know, or maybe even they're just getting to know. But yeah, just that question of like, what do you need from us is the most important thing of reaching out to people, and that's keeping people engaged. And then to the thing that Scott said, even if they initially didn't respond, 2-3 weeks in, they're starting now to trickle in even more as well as it's sort of setting in, and as they're the stream content, the app they have, whatever that's one dimensional, it's maybe working, or they're getting tired of the same at-home workout. So something that's sort of customized to them, having somebody who's overseeing it, having that regular check-in, that's been really effective for some of the customers that we've heard from.
Well, just some feedback in terms of how the conversations have gone. I personally talked to about 20 members. And first of all, you can actually get them on the phone. So that's different. So people are actually home and they actually answer the phone. Second, a conversation that is really just to talk about their account has lasted about half an hour. So people are craving that human connection. So I know that, what we're seeing in the industry is a lot of one-dimensional, where people are streaming classes or streaming the workouts, whatever, but it's actually the personal connection that people are missing.
Yeah.
May I say something to that too? It's Angela again. We are a relatively small studio, so I have an average of between 145 and 165 regulars during the week. We kept up with emails basically when we closed, and then in between, and just now telling them we won't be reopening on the 14th. But I do the personal phone calls as well, and on the emails I had 57 answers. The majority of them happy that we continue to pay our staff. I assume so when you point out in an email that you will recall your staff, that you would get a similar response. And 25 of those have offered to buy personal training packages at this point to help with the cash flow. I don't know if these numbers help you or what, but it was quite encouraging for me.
Yeah, and I've seen other studios where they just are saying, you know what, we're going to give a 10% off of our punch passes because we have to have some cash flow, and they blow the doors off the place. So people are willing to pay, I guess that's the bottom line, to help support their local facility. So.
Guys, can I just weigh in? I've had a few reports of some smaller studios that are renting equipment to their clients, generally clients that they know reasonably well. I don't know if anybody's had any success with that, but it was, I guess, another revenue generating opportunity, perhaps.
We're not personally renting at this point. We're selling equipment that's been in storage, but I do know that I know of other studios, specifically in Edmonton, that have actually rented out all their equipment. So, you know, there is an appetite for that, and they set up a subscribing service for their classes. So there does seem to be a market for that, for sure.
Okay.
I just want to jump to the chat box here. Jeff has asked if a staff member does not want to be recalled due to fears of safety, are they technically considered resigned? I thought there were protections put in place for employees who didn't.
Yeah, so that's a good question. Our understanding is all the protections still exist. So your maternity leave, your medical leaves, all of those are still in play. In terms of safety, you know, I assume we're not recalling them to the actual facility. If you are recalling them to the actual facility and they don't want to do that because they fear for their safety, yes, they would likely be able to decline the recall. But if they're working from home, training clients or teaching classes, you know, they still have their job.
So that brings up an interesting question, because one of the things that I've heard, especially about people who've applied for the
Nick, you were just put on mute.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so something that goes with that, for the trainers, so some trainers who are either working independently or working for a gym, if they've applied for the $2,000 emergency benefit and they're getting it, one of the conditions is that they can't, at least as far as they understand, they can't earn any income. So they've chosen to not start again with a particular gym or with their clients because they don't want to be earning income and then disqualifying themselves from the 2,000. So I guess they're looking at that threshold as needing to earn more than 2,000 from whatever online options they're doing. Is there a way for them, as far as people know, with the emergency benefit, can they earn a certain point and then discount that benefit, or does it have to be over 2,000? Like, what's the threshold there? Does anybody have any insight on that?
My understanding is there is no threshold. If you're making $1, you're disqualified from collecting the 2,000.
The only other thing is if they were laid off, if it's a layoff, not a termination, you are allowed to earn more now than you used. I don't know what the number was, what you used to be able to earn when you were an EI. That threshold has been raised, so you are allowed to earn more. But how much it is, since we didn't lay off, I didn't inquire about that.
So first of all, we aren't going to recall anybody unless we're confident that they can make more than the $500 a week, because otherwise that really isn't in anybody's best interest. So Nick, that's a great point you bring up, because you know, you have to make sure that you're able to actually provide them a decent income. Otherwise, they could be harmed, and then, you know, we're not doing anybody any favors that way. As far as the EI, I know it's changing. Our legal team said it hasn't been officially changed yet. They're going to be making things a little bit more employee, you know, better for the employees. But right now, after they've been laid off for 30 days, if they come back and earn income, for every dollar they earn, they reduce their EI by 50 cents. So that's the current, I guess, landscape.
Yeah, but that doesn't apply to the 2,000, right?
Yeah, if you're on the CERB, CERB, if you earn $1, then you're taken off. So if you can only pay them $250 a week, it's probably not a good idea to recall them.
And
Now,
it's meant to be for a 14-day period. Can you guys hear me? It's Natalie.
Yeah.
So having applied for the CERB a couple of days ago, and wow, I got my money fast. So yay, took 2 days and the $2,000 was in my account. But it's a 14-day period. The thing that I don't find clear is it earning or receiving in a 14-day period? That's the piece that isn't super clear, especially for independent contractors such as myself, which is figuring out, are they working during that period, or is the actual revenue coming in during that period? But they did say that they're going to look into independent contractors. Paula says earning, yay. Independent contractors working up to 10 hours a week. They're apparently working on that, and they'll get back to us on that. So trainers wouldn't necessarily be affected by that, but for instructors that aren't exclusive and work in a lot of different places, it would be tough to just constantly see who's opening, who's 75. I mean, the accounting math on it is a little bit insane. So for instructors and independent contractors, it's a little bit tougher, but essentially you cannot earn for 14 consecutive days within the period that you're getting the 2,000. So I don't know if those instructors are going to try and just teach every single class for 14 days and then do nothing for 2 weeks after that, but everybody's trying to figure it out right now.
Now, does that apply depending on when? Again, like it's there was the question there of like when wages were earned. So, for example, if people were owed money before from when they were earning before they were then temporarily laid off, or if they do come back after 30 days, like they're eligible for the 2,000 for that 30 days, and then as soon as they start earning next month, or if the paycheck is for next month, like what does anyone know the exact timing on that, where that works?
That's the piece that wasn't clear to me, but I went with, like Paula said, which is earning. Like I did a conference at the YMCA 2 months ago and the check came in. I'm not going to not cash it. It was 2 months ago. And so for me, the money's coming in now, but that's money that I earned back in February. And so for me, I'm still depositing that money and holding on to everything and hoping that I don't have to do any creative accounting and that this is all going to work out. But I'm making sure that for the earned time, there's at least 14 days where nothing was being earned, even though some checks retroactively were coming in.
By the way, anybody who applies for the 2,000 is automatically receiving it. The sort of vetting of that process won't really occur until next spring.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. Are there any other topics that anybody would like to discuss at this time?
Trisha, I've had a couple of clients that are studio owners and et cetera that are looking into what reopening will look like. I don't know if we want to talk about that today or at another time, but they're already considering reorganizing the equipment and the how everything is laid out in their open spaces, assuming that when the studios and gyms can open, it'll absolutely not be to full capacity. And so they're thinking, because they got time on their hands, to try and go into their facilities and start to reorganize layouts and create a bit of a reopen schedule that respects whatever those things will be. Is everybody just way too ahead when it comes to that? I know they're just trying to keep busy and assuming that it won't be just a full-fledged reopen, but something that kind of keeps social distancing in mind when they do.
It's Dave Hardy here. I can give you a quick little update of our experience. We have studios in Japan as well. And when this happened in Japan, and we also have a studio in Shanghai. And in Shanghai, for example, they limited the number of people in the class to 10 people, whereas we typically have up to 24. And so again, it was that idea of every other treadmill. Now we left the equipment in place, and that way we could do cleaning in between. But my expectation is we are all going to come back to a social distancing. It's now called physical distancing. That is going to last certainly well beyond, likely when we reopen.
Dave, in those, what's the demand been like? Do you find that there's, like, if you had a full class, you could fill it, or is the demand actually less?
So it started out, I use this analogy, it used to be FOMO, fear of missing out, has been replaced by FOGO, fear of going out. And so in Shanghai in particular, where I do have the numbers that are a little bit better, first week started out even with the reduced capacity, utilization numbers. Typically our utilization numbers are in the 80 or 90 percentile. They started out in the 30s, but over a couple of weeks, they're now up in the 60s. So people are coming back and feeling more comfortable. But and that quite honestly is one of our biggest issues is, we expect to see gym cancellations. People are just not going to be comfortable going back into any kind of a crowded facility. Even I was saying this the other day, the bank, I'm in the US right now, and the bank machines down here now, you don't touch the buttons anymore. You drive up to it, you put your card in, it spits your card out, and then you hold your cell phone up and take a picture of a scan code on the screen, and you do all your transaction on your cell phone, so you don't have to touch the buttons. More of that is going to be coming on every part of our lives. That they've increased the how much you can use when you tap your card to pay, so you don't have to touch buttons. I expect to see more and more of that, and this FOGO is unfortunately I think going to be have an impact on our industry.
That's really helpful, Dave. Thank you.
Are there any other operators that are thinking about reopening and how they're going to be structuring their equipment as well?
Yes, I have. We have created a big bin for our trainers because we don't have membership, just personal training. Each personal trainer has to leave their weights or tubing or whatever they had in that one bin, and front desk, or if a trainer has a free hour, we will be cleaned and basically disinfected or whatever we're going to use before it's going to be put back. So that is already organized, and we do, and we will, because we have a physiotherapist on site who uses our gym as well. He will be getting one of the treadmills and one of the bikes in a multi-purpose room to have him out of the way to facilitate small group classes still.
Thank you, Angela.
Yeah, one more thing there, Tricia. This is Mario here in Toronto. Yes, I think last week Ursa put on a webinar from one of the operators in Asia. I think it was Pure Fitness, I believe. Had some really great insight on their webinar. I'd highly recommend everybody go check that out, as they've been through it, and they've started reopening some of their clubs, as Dave was mentioning, in Shanghai and Hong Kong. And some really great insight to be had there about some of the approaches they're taking, and even just the optics of opening. That was really, really quite enlightening. So I highly recommend you go check it out. It's right on their website, and I think it's called COVID Insights on Opening. It's usually right on the front page there, so I highly recommend everybody take a look.
Thanks, Mario. We actually also have Killian from Ursa on the call right now. Killian, would you be able to give a quick update about other countries?
Yeah, sure. Just to, hello everybody, it's Killian Fisher from Ursa. Just to pick up actually on the point about clubs reopening maybe first. So Walter McDonald, who is the Chief Fitness Officer for a group of clubs, 52 clubs in the Shenzhen region in China, he actually did the webinar yesterday. So backing up the information from Colin from Pure Gyms is Walter is they're kind of further ahead obviously in China in terms of reopening and the regime that they're under. Just to mention two things we're doing from Ursa as well is we have got somebody working on some standards in terms of the whole cleanliness side and all that hygiene side when we open. And I'm actually speaking to the World Health Organization at the moment as well. And they have promised that they will hopefully work with us in terms of some specific guidance for clubs and reopening as well, because we felt obviously if you get that credible source from WHO to give us some further guidance there, I think is obviously very useful. So hopefully that helps. And coming to Trisha's specific question, are you talking generally, Trisha, or is there specific things you want me just to mention?
Just generally would be fine, things that you think that would connect in with the conversation that we're having today.
Yeah, the staffing one comes. So for those who don't know, I'm actually physically based in Ireland. So we're a little bit further ahead in terms of the staffing and the wage subsidies. So what you're actually bringing in Canada is actually quite similar, but the employer is actually getting money back is actually happening within 24 hours. So once they submit claims, it's been done through the taxation system. So it's actually unusually maybe for Ireland, but actually working very efficiently. You know, the UK though are going through similar problems or challenges to yourself, because they have an 80% subsidy announced some weeks ago, and employers are still actually not getting the money from that, which is actually causing a lot of issues there. But you know, you have the other extreme in China where staff did not receive, or business did not receive any subsidies or support at all. So that was the other end of the scale. So it's quite mixed. Like there's probably, you know, there's a mix of countries from doing anything up to 80% subsidy down to 60%, and then at the end of the scale doing nothing at all. So you know, there's a mix of experiences really, I think there. What I think the caution is coming out from operators, and Colin Grant was one mentioned, where they had in Hong Kong, they had to actually close their clubs again because of an outbreak of COVID-19. So I think the caution there from business owners is don't try to rush too soon to open, because you could end up closing again, which could actually have a more detrimental effect on the business. So I think there, you know, is a bit of caution if you're like really in there and really trying to plan ahead and have a full strategy for the kind of new normal, which I think, you know, from looking at WHO advice at the moment, is going to be with us for 12 to 18 months.
Just a little update as well, Killian. You were talking about different wage subsidies. It was my understanding on it from a global federations call that I was on that in Russia, not only are they not getting subsidies, but they're also not allowed to lay off their staff. I heard that from an operator in Russia. Just so we all can feel good about being Canadians, can you give us a little update on that?
I don't have any update on the Russian one, but I can get that. But yeah, I mean, there's very different employment laws, obviously, in different countries. I think in Canada, you're probably more like Europe in terms of employment legislation, because Europe has a lot of legislation around employing staff and contracts.
Yeah. So my understanding was, based on the Global Federation call, and I think you heard it as well, Tricia, that if you are operating a business in Russia and you close the business, and you have to continue to pay off your staff, and the penalty if you don't is it's a criminal offense.
So I think this goes to some of the conversation we're having now, the reality of if people haven't started doing some streaming, something online now, even when you get back open again, future-proofing your business, like it's unclear how quickly people are going to be able to open, and then even once we are open, how long it'll take to get back up to full capacity, or if we will be. So just having the expectation that you might, you know, be in more of a hybrid model where people may come in less often and then still work out at home, and having something to engage people, or make sure you're future-proofing stuff in that way. So if you haven't, you know, if you're still just sort of waiting and seeing, and not doing something streaming or doing online training, or at least programming or something, you know, it's not clear how quickly, you know, you'll be able to go full in person again. So it's a good time to sort of move to that, and expect that it's going to be some time where, and it might be even be just for going forward now, depending on how consumers' expectations change now that they've worked out at home. And some people are for sure missing the social aspect of going to the gym, but some people I think are finding that they are effective at home. So just making sure you've got some plan in place to have one of those hybrid models where members aren't just paying for the access, where they're getting, you know, getting programming, getting something, some sort of online training as a hybrid to the in-person stuff. It seems like that's going to be very important in the foreseeable future.
Great, thank you, Nick. All right. Are there any other questions we want to discuss today?
I'm going to just leave one thought. I'm just, as you were talking, Killian, about what was happening in Hong Kong, I did a little Google searching to read about it, and the Hong Kong government has actually come out with the following comment. We believe that this is the time for property owners, including many large developers, to take on more social responsibilities. Owners should actively respond to the community's strong demands for rent reductions. Now, I'm sure that is going not only for residential, but would also go to retail. Chris, I'll send you a copy of this article. And again, hopefully that encourages some of our local government officials to make the same type of announcement.
This is Bilal here from Motion Fitness. I did reach out to all our MLAs, and I know a few of them personally and had their have their cell phones. So I did text them about this to bring it up at the federal level as well, just from our end, that landlords have to come to the table here. A lot of them are whatever they're offering is they're asking to be made whole within 6 to 12 months, which makes no sense. In a place where everyone's suspended in animation, and these guys want to be made whole in 6 to 12 months sounds so ridiculous.
Yeah, and Canada is not alone in that. I mean, that's happening in most countries. So governments are going to have to bring in better support and pressure really on landlords. We're hearing the same all over.
Trish, it's Angela again. One question: when you write minutes or whatever, is there any chance to whoever suggested COVID-19 on reopening in Shanghai, if you can find a bit more? I'm trying to find it, and there's multiple articles, but I'm not necessarily finding anything detailed. So if whoever had this suggestion could provide us with a website, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll have a look. It's right on the URSA front page, so it should be there. I'll have a look, and I'll send it to Trish. Send the link to Trish directly. Okay.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay,
yeah, sure. I'll send it all out to everybody for sure.
Hey, Sam here from Montreal. Just throwing this out, could be a great idea to look at pairing up more in detail and getting a plan going for prescription to get active when we do reopen. Just if we all are going to be looking at how do we bring back members, how do we work on percentages, stuff like that. Could be great timing to kind of work and build new partnerships on that right now.
Brilliant idea. I know we are working to continue to reach out and either start new chapters or strengthen. I know Jeff in Alberta is busy actually adding more medical partners, and we are going digital. So we're looking to bring our actual prescription online, and we're working with Trainer Plus as well as the life coaching organization to have online activity coaches. So, but it's a great opportunity to expand that network right now.
To that point too, I think, Sam, that you mentioned last time that you guys have had some success on the corporate wellness front. And maybe you and I can line about, I've seen that as well, a few people that have reached out through companies to support people who are working remotely now with programming. So maybe putting together a little bit of some sort of package or some ideas that you and I maybe can put together and send to Tricia that people can send out, because I think corporate wellness is going to be, a whole other new channel as well. So looking at healthcare and corporate wellness is two of the biggest channels of getting through to new members, or as a better channel to get people back in and back going on, whether it's online options or whether it's in-person options as people go. Even right now, people are reaching out, and companies are really looking for stuff, because a lot of their programming on the wellness front has always been in-house or subsidizing gym memberships, or paying back gym memberships on a spending account. So there's definitely been some initial interest from what we've seen from our customers who are reaching out to companies on the corporate wellness side. So maybe there's something we can put together, some info there as well, to get to help gym owners with a strategy of how to reach out to companies they know and use that as a lead gen.
Yep, sounds good.
Tricia, could you also post some information for us on Trainer Plus? I'm not familiar with that program.
Yes, absolutely. So I believe Nick is actually working on an article that I will be sending out to everybody shortly. He did post a couple podcasts, so I can send that out to the group as well. And Nick, did you want to add anything to that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm just finishing up a little bit of a short sort of like playbook from gyms from what I'm seeing and what ways to package new services that are a hybrid of free stuff you can do with streaming, and then how to blend also virtual training with programming services and different levels of programming services at different price points. So I spoke to it on my last podcast. I'll include the link in whatever info I send to Trisha, together a little bit of a playbook. Like I said, a playbook for it from what I've seen. And what how you can kind of put it together into these new offerings. But yeah, happy to share that stuff. And I'll probably end up doing a pod next week that's just specifically to gym owners and managers about what we've seen work, how to some of the stuff that's from these conversations too. What I've we'll get that out there for everybody.
Hey, now on that note, Nick, your podcast, I watched it and was really quite helpful. I really found it useful. So I really appreciate it. Thanks, man. Keep it up.
Thanks, man. I never have any idea. It's so one-sided. You're just talking and putting stuff up. So I appreciate that.
No, I did a great job. I figured as much. But yeah, everybody should check that out. It was very useful. Nick, you're eloquent and very informative, and I found it very useful.
Thanks, man.
I have the same. It was really good, and it was a really great way to introduce people to Trainer Plus and understand the practicality of it for them. So thanks for doing that.
Thanks. I'll have to have all of you guys on as guests at some point in time because it's getting boring just me talking for 45 minutes.
Nick, maybe I'll get you to post the links to your podcast just in the chat box here. So if anyone wants any quick access to it, they can get that.
Yeah, I think the last one is probably the most useful one. And if people want to go back and see the ones before that, yeah, I can find that and post that up.
Thanks. All right. Well, if there is nothing else for today, we can conclude today's meeting, and then our next meeting will keep same time, same place for next week.
Okay, well, stay safe, everybody, and till next Friday. Bye.
Good luck, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah,
Thank
bye.
you.